Thank you. So that invocation to unity underlies the purpose of the Theosophical Society, because we're here to create the nucleus of a new society without distinctions of culture, gender, or ethnicity. And therefore we emphasize that we're all part of a one life, a consciousness, if you will, that penetrates the entire cosmos, and we're all part of that one life. So to help us have a deeper realization of that underlying unity, we encourage a study of comparative religion, philosophy, and science, and the investigation into the unexplained laws of nature and the powers that are latent in each of us, that essentially the human being is more than just flesh and blood, and that our real life is in the inner worlds, and that through service on earth and helping each other, we can come to a deeper understanding and reality of who we really are. So this evening we will be continuing on with our study course, which is going to mid-July, and tonight we're going to be looking at death and the after-death states. So I'm Simon Webber. I'm the Lodge President of the Wellington branch. I have a PhD in behavioural psychology, and I've been serving the society for we're in about 13 days, it'll be 33 years. On the 12th of July, I got my diploma in 1990. So it's a pleasure for me to be able to serve and participate in the work, and the work being that we keep the door open for all to come in and participate in the work, which is sharing in what we call Theosophy, which is literally divine wisdom from the Greek, Sophia and wisdom, and Theos is God. So I've been doing this for a little while. I'm happy to be continuing on this evening. So yeah, it's really, really good. So we'll get underway, and we'll get into it.
That's a beautiful insights.
It does. It's not often that happens.
Okay, I'll just get the old. Yay. Okay. All right. So there are 7 planes of existence which correlate to 7 components of a human being. So as I said, we're more than just flesh and blood. So we have at the lowest level, level 7, is the physical, which we're right here and now, solid, liquids, and gases. The higher component of the physical is the etheric, which is essentially the more subtler components, which is the connection, if you like, between the superphysical and the physical world. So the Russians invented a type of photography called Kirlian photography, and when if you break a leaf in half, if you took a picture of it with this type of photographic technology, you could see the outline of the leaf around it. So that is the first indication at the etheric level of the subtler component of the physical body of the leaf. And hence humans also have that with you've heard the term the auras, so which is called our health aura. And if you can look, heard the term prana as well, that energy interpenetrates our physical body, and it's the connection between this world and the next. We have the astral plane, which is a realm of emotion, which we'll be looking at in depth tonight. We have the lower and higher mental components of the human being, which is the mind. So in the Sanskrit, manas is the thinker. So the human being thinks, and it has 2 components, that we are logical and rational, and more aspirational and spiritual in that sense. And then we have our intuition and our spiritual component, that we are out of the one life, the Atma. So the personality combines those lower 4, 7, 6, 5, and 4. So and our soul or our intuition combines our individuality. So we're going to be having a think about that later tonight, because if you think about the idea of reincarnation, it is the soul that reincarnates and gets a new personality every time. So at the moment, this body is me, it has its identity, etc., name and telephone number. Next time round, there'll be a new body, new name, new telephone number, etc. However, what I consider to be me as my soul will carry on. But that is also embodied in me as the true self, if you like, the spirit. So all of these components are within the human being right here and right now. And they also correspond to planes of existence, which relates to our after death state, which we're going to get to presently. So this is the theosophical framework, which says that the human being is more than just flesh and blood, and there is an organized, or if you like, a classified system, a division of components of ourself which relate to the physical dimensions of reality, if you like. So, right. So every night we go to sleep, we go to the astral plane, which is the realm of emotion, the next one up. So when we're dreaming, and you can come back in the morning, you remember some stuff. It's kind of like what you call lucid dreaming. So in some sense, you can go for excursions on the other side at night, and it depends on your intent of what you want to do. So if you want to go and see your friends who are here, you could actually organize a shindig on the other side and go and catch up with them. You may not actually remember it all, but you might have something that will come through. So every night we just go to sleep and we go to that level. Now, obviously, we come back in the morning because we're still alive. The silver cord that is talked about in the Christian tradition brings us back. Now, the astral plane, like all planes or realms of existence which we looked at, has 7 subplanes, okay, which we'll get into tonight. So just as the physical plane has solid, liquids, and gases, and the 4 etheric, the astral plane has those, or the realm of emotion has those planes as well, those sub-levels. So when we pass over, which means when that cord is broken and you don't come back, we are met by family and friends, and pretty much, that's it. We're gonna be starting a new phase of our existence for a time. So at death, we are met by family and friends, and essentially a new life or beginning for us starts. Now, it's interesting in the sense that when we go to the other side, there is, activity we can actually do, but who we are over there corresponds to who we were here. So, as I said, there's different realms, if you like, of vibration. So on the other side, just as we breathe oxygen, love is the key. Love is oxygen on the other side. So how we felt here on earth in incarnation is exactly the same as we will feel on the other side. Because the only difference is we just don't have this flesh and blood anymore. We're still the same person who thinks, feels in the same way. So there's no, the suggestion is there's no great shift that we're going to become all enlightened, etc., when we pass over, when we die. Yes, when you reincarnate, which we'll get to. Yeah, so this is what in the Tibetan they call the Bardo, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So yeah. So yep.
Summerland.
The what?
Summerland.
Yes, you could talk about it like that as well, yeah.
There's different planes. The soul is.
Correct.
So one question you've got, desires in the astral plane.
Sorry?
There's still a degree of desire.
Well, yeah, this is the realm of desire. This is the whole 7 levels. The whole astral plane is the realm of emotion. It is emotion. So the argument is from your behavioral psychologists, which I did my studies in. They argue it's all in here in your brain. They don't exist. They don't posit the view that consciousness, your emotions can exist outside the brain. This is the hardware, but not the software. Tanya, you were going to say something? Sorry? We're getting there. We're getting there.
It's in the idea that some people are trapped in this level for some time, sometimes quite some time.
Yeah, we'll get to that as well.
Excuse me, Simon.
Yeah.
We
First.
cannot hear what your participants at the branch say. So when relevant, can you repeat their question before you answer it?
Okay, yes, sorry. So
Thank
there's some questions around what's actually happening between incarnations. So it's like the bardo, and in terms of what else were you saying?
Summerland.
The Summerland. So it's that period after death. So yeah, and also questioning about heaven and hell, which we'll get to. Okay.
Can I just say one final thing?
Yes.
The idea that it's, you know, the quality of that experience is soul, that it depends on the quality of life that we have. It's the degree that we connect spiritually. So
Yeah.
that we live this selfish life. We were piecing that almost from the spirit possibility that realm of astral realm, which is in a way of thinking
Yeah, so Blake was saying that how we live here is reflected on the other side. So if you have a lot of self-interest, you'll still have that to deal with on the other side. So this is correct. And this is what I mean by the law of correspondence. What we do here corresponds to the other side. There's no great change. All we're doing is taking off an overcoat, so to speak, and we're still the same person on the other side. So again, it depends on how we live here.
So what about the heart?
Yes, we can. Yeah, so I can talk about that too. But in some, so just to get it out of the way now, if someone dies accidentally, they pretty much stay in the astral plane, in the realm of emotion, for that period of the rest of their time they had to spend. So if they died at 20, and then they were had an accident and died at 20, but they were probably going to live till 70, they got at least 50 years to spend there. Yes, but again, it depends on motive and everything like that as well. So I can touch on that later as well. Okay.
The noble death. And he was old already.
See, yeah. Okay, so there's some comments here about how long we stay in the afterlife. Okay, so as I said, depending, and this is what has been brought up tonight already, depending on how we lived our life here and how we think, how we feel, and how we behave, reflects pretty much where you're going to end up or wake up once you transition out of the physical body. Because, you know, in the near-death experiences, you know, in the 80s, all the doctors were describing and writing books about their patients going out of their bodies and describing stuff when they came back. So when one goes out of one's body at death, where we awaken, if you like, on the astral plane, corresponds to how we thought and felt here. So at the top of the astral plane, you've got all the higher kind of vibrations, which is really where you find, and basically pure as love as you can possibly get it, you know, in terms of that high emotion. And obviously, as you were saying, Tanya, at the bottom, you've got that. And this is where the coarsest level of vibration is. So it's not hell in a traditional Christian sense of a literal understanding that we're going to burn there for all eternity. Okay, it's nothing like that.
We still have to meet your friends and family, they can help. the way it is. I'm certain of that.
Okay, who, I mean, you think about various personalities over the years in human incarnation who've been done some pretty bad stuff, right? If they're good mates together, they'll end up there together, right? But because I don't hang around with those type of people, I'm not going to end up there being mates with them down at the lowest level of the astral plane, right? I'm going to be higher up, supposedly, hopefully, because I'm a nice guy. But it doesn't mean to say that those who are of the same ilk, and if they're pretty much self-centered, they're going to catch up with each other down there, you know? So, and all it is a level of vibration. So this is where it's like, what is it? What's the saying? There's, you know, about burning in hell with self-will, you know? Nothing is hotter in hell than one's own self-will, so to speak. So everyone down there who's totally self-centered will naturally gravitate and be in that space. But it's just a rate of vibration. It's a very, you'd be suffocated down there. Just imagine all the air was sucked out of this room. We couldn't breathe. Be like, it's a bit like that, equivalent, because there's no love.
Like a nightmare.
Probably, yeah. I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, you may have met some people, you go into a room or something, you know, it's not a very nice vibe, you know. It's like, wow, I don't think I really want to talk to you much or whatever, something to that effect. You know, people like that. Well, imagine if they're 10 times worse or whatever it might be, and there's a group of them, that would be, you know, not very nice to go to their party. But, you know, this is it comes to the level of awareness and consciousness. So if they're thinking in this way, whatever they do in their daily life is self-centered, really, and taking advantage of other people. This is where they're going to end up, or wake up initially, and then they have to work. Well, this is the extreme end of the spectrum. Yeah. So I just kind of put those there as a contrast, that whatever life we live here corresponds to what it will be like on the other side after we die. Now, well, yes, cause and effect. Sorry? We're going to come to reincarnation, yes. It depends. If you've learned pretty much all there is to learn to be a human being, then you wouldn't reincarnate. Because we have to incarnate to learn what it is to be a real human. And ultimately, once we've learned all of that and become, as the Christian tradition says, become perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect, then there's no need for reincarnation. We've learned all there is to be human, and then there's a further evolution of, yeah.
Does it matter depending on how many souls and achievements that?
Well, I don't know any numbers, but
No.
you can think of all the saints and sages, you know, because they said the soul known as Jesus reincarnated as Apollonius of Tyana. The argument is, suggestion is, who was a sage, another sage. So, you know, Ramana Maharshi, I don't know if he'd be reincarnating, I wouldn't know for sure, but hey, you know, he's quite a Krishnamurti, you know. So all of these kind of contemporary sages that we've had are pretty evolved. And the further evolved you are, you don't actually, when you pass over, you don't actually go to the astral, you go to the higher planes. Yeah.
Or you can choose to come back.
Yeah. So the comments from the lodge for everyone online is just talking about, you know, varying degrees of evolution of the human being, whether you need to reincarnate or not, and that's obviously contingent on their state of evolution. But there's a point when none of us have to reincarnate, when we've learned all there is to learn to be human. So yeah, that's great.
We become heavenly beings.
Sorry?
People from cycles who have a religion in the time on earth, and they pass away, they become heavenly beings.
Hmm. Yeah, so-
Like a heavenly realm.
Yeah, so the Buddha is the flower, they call him the flower of humanity, because the humans on this earth, he is the most evolved of us all. And he is really right up there. But then he himself has said, I'm just another Buddha of the many Buddhas that have been before me, ad infinitum. I mean, there's a little saying in the Theosophical Society that the growth and splendor of the human being has no limit. I mean, you think about eternity. We have what we call God, the divine, is what in the Theosophical framework is called the solar logos, which is the entity that controls this whole solar system, right? And the sun, they say, is its heart chakra. So imagine that entity controlling all of life in the solar system. And then you think about that, there's a galactic entity controlling everything in that galaxy. And there's 2 trillion galaxies in this universe. And then you have a universal logos being controlling that universe, of which there are countless numbers.
Well, the time of the Buddha is the world is calm and pure, so it's easier to construct. The animal today is so good and really producer that's finishing the most of the lifestyles because of the environment is so beautiful.
Okay. So the comment was, it's like the time of the Buddha, it was easy to become more enlightened, whereas now it's a little bit more difficult. But the advantage is, because in the Hindu tradition, this is called the Kali Yuga, which is the a stage in evolution where there is the least spiritual impetus on the planet. Okay, so, but it's the great time to evolve because you've got challenges. Yeah, so then, okay, one more question and then we'll get back to the topic.
It's more of a comment than a question. I just agree with the comment that it was
More pure.
that it was easier back in the Buddha state. Okay. These days, under certain philosophies, is actually the most prime time for the last several thousand years to actually elevate yourself and become into the God.
Okay, yeah, all right, that's good. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so every time has its difficulties. So we'll get back to death.
But the Lord was not
Okay. Okay,
It's irrelevant.
We have satellites polluting space. We have pollution of the mind. We have pollution of rivers. We have pollution everywhere, and that is not a good environment for that.
okay, all right, we're going to come back. Please, we're going to come back to death. Right. Okay, because this is the introductory study course on death in the after states. In the tea break, feel free to chat about the Buddha to your heart's content. Right. Okay, so inhabitants of the astral plane, of the realm of emotion. Okay, so there are those who reincarnate immediately, which is the spiritual disciples. So they're waiting to be reincarnated without going through the entire cycle, which we're going to look at shortly for the average human being. There is ourselves after death, and there is the disintegrating astral body, which is called the shade or shell. So just like when we leave the physical plane, we go to the astral, we will also leave the astral plane and go to the mental world, which we'll get to in a moment. And obviously there's the body that was occupied at the astral level, just disintegrates slowly and dissolves into the essence of that plane, just as the body will dissolve into the elements of the ground, or if you burn it back to the atmosphere very quickly. In terms of the non-humans, there's the astral bodies of animals. So like my just a personal, my dad passed away in January and I had to take his dog to the vet because, you know, so his dog, the dog goes to the other side, the same as my father. So they would have caught up, but the dog's doesn't stay as long as a human being, and its astral body pretty much dissolves and goes back to the general, what's called a group soul, general, it's a group of animals, if you like. The animals don't have individual consciousness like us, a unit, but eventually they will. But so they only have a small period of time in the afterlife.
So just to clarify, we can't reincarnate as animals.
We cannot ever.
Unless you're terrible.
Okay, the question is about reincarnating as animals. So the Theosophy teaches, its framework teaches that evolution goes forwards, not backwards. So the humans, once you're a human, you're always a human. You become a superhuman ad infinitum. Can't go back. Evolution goes forward.
So we have it at some point.
Yes.
I don't think so. I think it's somebody can do that animal problem.
Well, that's I'm just telling you, that one of the key components of the Theosophical Society is freedom of thought. What is presented from the platform is up to you to believe or not. So I have no problems with that. What I'm saying in the Theosophical framework, once you're a human, you're always a human. Whether you believe that or not is up to you. Okay, now I just want to talk about a few things here. So once you get to, for example, the top of the astral plane, you have a gestation period where basically you need to kind of get rid of everything that is based within one's nature before you go to the next stage, which is the mental world or the heaven world, David Chan. So there's a gestation period there, which Blavatsky put a number of it, maximum around 150 years. But it depends again on how one has lived one's life. Like, for example, my mother, who died very young, was very devout. So I don't think she would have spent much time. She wouldn't have had 150 years sitting there, you know, because she was very, very devout, if you like. So on the other side, in that sense, depending on how one lives, obviously, and this is just a number. So you're right, time is not the same as it is here. So,
It's like when we dream, right? Time.
yeah, you can, like, time goes very quickly when you're happy and joyful, right? So the same suggestion is when we're in the heaven world, which I'll get to momentarily, in the mental plane, there is no sorrow there, okay? So time is like that. There's no time in that sense. So if, for example, you know, with people who've died suddenly or with the suicides, they have longer at this level because their lifespan hasn't been lived out. It's my teacher Ravi Ravindra said of his teacher, Madame de Salzman, who was the head of the Gurdjieff group, said it is good to live a long life because you can work through a whole lot of stuff. And this is why, if you like, murder and capital punishment is not good, because it cuts the opportunity off from learning. Even if one is in prison, one can still learn. And you read about it in all the, I've worked in the social sciences in government.
Self-defense.
Well,
Self-preservation.
yeah. So, I mean, it all again comes down to motive, right? I'm just saying, however a person has died. So if you kill someone in self-defense, obviously that's motive and there's the reason why you did that, and that's for the courts to decide. But if that person died, then, and if it was not meant to be their time to die, even though it was self-defense or whatever it might have been, they're still going to spend time on that side, right? So no matter what is occurring in one's life, if one can live it out, whether one is incarcerated or free, that is the best thing to do. Because otherwise, being on the other side, you can't really learn much because you haven't got the experiences here to do it with, because you don't have the physical capability anymore. Essentially. Right. So is there any questions around the immediate after death state and the realm of emotion? Like,
Could you just expand on the idea that life flashes before your eyes and moments of death?
okay, yes. Yes, no, I was meant to talk about that. So when you pass away, and this is, oh yeah, this is interesting because you do actually see everything flash before your eyes. Now, I've got some research here. A friend of mine sent it to me just this year, and a scientist did some research on brain activity of dying patients.
There's also the guy, Evan Alexander.
Yes. Well, he's a neuropsychologist,
Yeah.
and he described what happened to him. And he's talked at the TS before. You know, he's a member, I think. And
From a scientific materialist.
yeah. He had a complete shift.
Yeah.
They thought he was totally brain dead, but he had this life going on the inside, on the other side, and he came back and wrote a book about it and all that kind of stuff. They couldn't believe he came back to life.
You have to mention his name, Simon.
Dr. Eben Alexander.
Thank you.
So the question was about him and his book and coming back to life. So the question from Blake is around having that life review, if you like. You see your life before your eyes. Now, in the neuroscience, and I can give you the reference if you want. They looked at oscillations in the brain of a dying human brain, and they found that it was very conscious. There was a lot of conscious activity going on just as they were dying, and this corresponds to the Theosophical teaching where when we pass, there is total lucidity. The Mahatmas say there is total lucidity. So it's very important, if you're with someone when they pass, to be absolutely silent, because hearing is the last to go, and they're having that review. And I was fortunate enough to follow my intuition, and my father had 20 minutes when he was totally alone at the hospital, and then he was gone. I came back just after he'd gone. His head was very hot. It was like he'd just gone moments before, but he needed that quiet space to do it. So the teaching is, if you are with someone and they're passing, they are conscious, they are fully alert at that cognitively, and this research seems to suggest it, and the Theosophical framework suggests it, so they do that review, which is very important, because everything they've done in their life is coming back to them right there and there, bang, and that forms and helps you go to the next stage. So when, well, if you feel that's right, the key thing is just to be silent.
Yeah, because I had I went to the other side, and I had my family when I was going to the and I had a film of the problem on the other side while I was in hospital, and they actually called me back. That love that you're talking about, coming from the kingdom, holding my hand, that you called me back. If I went to this tunnel, and this hand came out, it's like a little cheek and the stuck like in the middle. And then they were holding my hand, and we wanted it, but I pulled back and I the next morning, obviously, should be dead because they were out of 1960. So that's what the course. And we sort of like, and I believe this is because I had those two lives, I holding my hand.
Okay, the comment was having an experience where when we nearly died and holding hands kept you here. So, I mean,
Everyone's different.
So at death, it's quite a sacred moment because everyone is passing in its their time. I thought my father was going to pass the night before, and I thought, well, I'll be there. I might hear something. He might have some visions of the other side, and it didn't happen. And I thought about it in the following day, and I thought, well, it's his time. It's not my time. So he went alone, which was really nice. Right. So we're going to move now to heaven world. Okay, the next stage after the realm of emotion, which is where we go to when we leave the physical in the first death.
Just a quick one.
Yep.
Purgatory, I presume, comes into the realm which is spoken about.
Yes. So this is, if you like, the whole of the astral plane is called Hades or Purgatory. The Bardo, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I mean, did you see all those, Azu, those pictures? Yeah.
I did.
So yeah.
And David fails, yeah.
So
So
okay. Right. Voila. Okay. So this is the next level of consciousness, which is the mental realm, or the heaven world, or Devachan, the realm of the angels, if you like.
The celestial sphere.
Hmm?
I've heard it called the celestial sphere.
It also been called the celestial spheres. Yes. Okay. So again, it has 7 components, 7 subplanes, if you like. And you have the lower heaven worlds and the higher heaven worlds. And we also have at the top, which is what's called the causal body, or soul, or individuality. Okay, so that is the component that reincarnates, which ultimately at the end of the spiritual life, when we become fully human, will cease to exist. There'll be no need for reincarnation. That won't exist, and there'll just be the one, that Brahman Atman. Because the Atma is not personal, it's universal. Remember our schema? We'll just go back. We'll go back here, right at the top. That is universal. There's no me there, but I still am conscious, but it's just the one. So the individuality dissolves. Personality dissolves every death. The individuality dissolves ultimately once we become fully enlightened, a Jivan Mukti, a liberated human being, and we become Atma at that level when there's just the one. So that's just a bit of context. Right. So again, after the cleansing of all the selfish intention, which is dissolved at the astral level, here is just pure love and goodness. Everything that we've had in us, which is our highest aspirations, are there. The love we have for our dog, or whatever it might be, our work, everything. Here, sorry?
Did you say you had a dog?
No, my dad had a dog, but you might have a dog and you really miss it and you love that dog, or whatever it might be, you know? So here it's everything that our ego, our I, the me, which is our individuality, goes there with our higher principles, which is our Atma and our Buddhi, which is the link to unity. So it's these top 2 components of our constitution. So we had physical, superphysical, astral, lower mental, higher mental. So that our higher mental individuality there with our intuition or Buddhi and spirit or Atma. This is what resides at this level. And we are there for a long time, if you like, depending again on how we lived. We're here inquiring into the nature of reality, the oneness of life. We're going to have a nice long break. Now, here's the interesting thing. Because this is the realm of the mind, if you like, mental realm, and since the ego or individuality operates at that level, if you become some degree enlightened like a yogi, you have realized that this is an illusion. So when you get to that stage, you don't actually go there. You just keep reincarnating and cranking it out. Because this, in one sense, is still a personal world. It's your own personal world of love. And everything you've aspired to in the highest, it's your little bubble for a few eternities, if you like, for a few thousand years, 100 years, 500 years, whatever it is. There's, various times. So that's your little world, your little bubble where everything is perfect. There's only peace and happiness. And the babies, when they come down from and born, they're just coming down from that space, so they're all happy as. Yeah, exactly. So there's only that oneness there. So there's only love at that realm. No, reincarnated babies. So there's only
When does that happen once we've made the decision to reincarnate?
so you're saying, is it?
Descend down into the physical.
I just want to understand your question, Azu. So you're saying you have some memory when you're born?
No, you don't have memory, right? Because you consciously, you make a choice to have amnesia because you don't want to remember.
Oh, I understand. I understand.
Before you reincarnate. So when is that?
Okay.
Does that happen?
After this, which we'll get to in a moment. Yeah, because nature, life, the divine doesn't allow you to remember, or well, some children do, of course, and there's lots of research on reincarnation, children doing it. But as a general rule, one doesn't remember one's previous lives for good reason. I mean, you remember everything you've done in this time and drive you nuts, all the good things, the bad things, everything. So because you're getting a new personality, you get a new body, new mind, and new emotions. How are we for time? Okay, good. We're nearly done. So it's a period of self-reflection, happiness and joy. It's your own little world of peace and happiness.
Also, Simon, this is where your character is established for the next life.
Yes. So this is what I mean by the causal body or soul or individuality. Here, everything is embedded. So whatever we do in life is never lost. Whatever progress we make is never lost. So we take one step forward, it is never lost. And that's a great thing. So we come back with those qualities and tendencies we developed and continue to develop from life after life. So then we reincarnate. Yeah, I mean,
if you educate yourself on how it works, you realize a lot of people that think they have a big problem, but the people that actually, more people realize that fact, then they're more cognizant of their everyday behavior.
yes.
And they work by harder and more angry.
So the comment is around having the awareness that we do have another life and that would affect how we behave now. So after this period in the heaven world, when we've absorbed and been in this space and had that time to reflect on everything that is the highest and good, it's time then to come back for the next lesson, if you like. So we come back down to incarnate and we form a new personality. We get a new body, but the point is, it all corresponds to how we lived previously. Now, if we think about it, tonight when we go to sleep, all else being equal, we're pretty much going to wake up the same person, right? Now, the same logic applies between life to life as opposed to night to day, night to night. Each day we wake up, each incarnation we wake up. And my friend said, you start where you left off. So and the argument is, the suggestion is in the Theosophical framework that no There are no rewards in heaven apart from what you've actually done on earth yourself. Cause and effect. You work hard, you progress. If you study hard, you get your degree. If you don't, you have to make it up at the other end. So, you know, so in that sense, when we reincarnate, our bodies will be pretty much similar to what we were, our minds and our thoughts. And obviously this is all brought, our individuality is again with us. Bill.
I think I'd like to add, Simon, that we're told that there's a very elaborate counselling system between lives. You know, seniors in evolution, sometimes angelic beings give us counselling about the next incarnation. And Jeffrey Hodgson said that we have a choice whether to incarnate or not. I mean, you know, generally we talk about the fact that we have to incarnate, but his opinion was that it's a choice of whether to incarnate or not. And if we choose to incarnate, which in a way is something of a privilege because it's a learning process, then we have to reincarnate according to karma, to the rules. We can't cherry pick. You know, some people in the new age, they say, well, we choose our parents. Well, that's very much tied to our karma. And so Jeffrey was of the opinion that if we accept the decision to reincarnate, then we have to do it according to, you know, our karma and the play the hand that we're dealt, as it were. So that was his opinion.
Okay, I'll just repeat, Bill, for everyone online, is talking about Jeffrey Hodgson and saying that there is some counselling from angels, and you have some potential.
And you know, seniors in evolution.
Seniors in evolution as well, around, you know, whether we are going to incarnate, and if we do incarnate, then it's obviously in accordance with the karmic law. But yeah.
When you talk about seniors in evolution, that includes the ascended masters as well.
Yes, you know, there are guides advanced. I mean, it's a privilege to have contact with the masters. So some people may not have earned that privilege at that particular level, but there are seniors in evolution or more advanced people who can give us guidance and point the way and advise.
Evolution mentioned.
Spiritual evolution.
Yeah, so Tanya's mentioned about evolution. So that, as Bill said, is spiritual evolution. So the human being is evolving spiritually and will understand more of who it really is and the laws of nature, and ultimately realize that it is more than what it thinks it is. So life is in the inner realms. This is, if you like, equivalent to the matrix. This is not real, and our real life is in the inner worlds. So the human being operates at all levels of manifestation. So here, as we've got here, the atmic level, those are all states or planes of existence on the inner realms, as well as reflected through this body, right? So in evolution, we evolved to be able to operate what we would call as a normal life then. So when we become a liberated human being, we operate in those dimensions pretty much the higher realms, Buddhic and Atmic. And we evolve. There's more to evolve on the inner planes. So yeah, it's evolution and consciousness. And human bodies have changed over millions of years. Evolving. Yeah, cool. Yep, sweet. Yeah. Okay, so
also suggest that I'm degenerating and going backwards. Some people may not evolve.
yeah, okay, so there's a point. Okay, so I'll just this is all I officially have to present on death, okay? So that's well to have a discussion and questions, but I'll just stop sharing the screen now, Sushi. And we'll put everyone up. Here we all are. Hey, hi everyone, great. So Brett mentioned about not everyone evolving. So there is, so you have to think about the cycle. So manifestation is cyclic. So we are halfway through evolution on this earth as a cycle. And another 3/4 of the way through, roughly speaking, there'll be a decision made by those higher powers of the souls that will be able to proceed and achieve all there is in evolution, i.e. become liberated, learn all there is to be a human being, become a perfect human being in the rest of the cycle. And there'll be some that won't be able to make it. It's like a class. So what they do then, they put in, have a rest, basically, pralaya as a rest period. So when the next cycle starts on another planet, they will go to that and carry on where they left off. So there's a decision made, because it's like, imagine you're in class and you've got all the bad boys and the bad girls up the back screaming and yelling. You're not gonna get all the you're not gonna get your class finished. All the teachers' pets, as it were, are not going to be able to finish their schooling, so they're all removed, which is fair enough. Think about it. So in that sense, okay. So in that sense, evolution for the human being, for those who can carry on, will be fine. But everyone evolves, so that's it. We're all going to find out who we are. We're going to be able to manifest all there is to be human, and we're going to keep going forever, ad infinitum. There is no end to the evolution of ourselves. So that's